Fear Street Part 1 1994 just premiered on Netflix. It's part one of a trilogy that was shot back to back all at once a la Lord of the Rings. Ever heard of it? And Netflix bought this movie last year during the height of our quarantine. So they're releasing this trilogy weekly, which I actually think is a pretty interesting strategy. As far as I know, no other film series has been released so close back to back in this way, and I'm actually really curious on whether or not this experiment will pay off. And then I checked the reviews and they're actually pretty good. Critics and audiences alike all seem to be enjoying this thing and they're all likening it to Scream. I like Scream. I like horror movies. I'm in. This movie had my attention, but now it had my curiosity. And so I sat down on my couch, I booted up Netflix, and I put on Fear Street Part 1 1994. And it was not so good. Now listen, just based on simple math, I know that if you were watching this video and you watched Fear Street, you probably liked it. And to you, I say congratulations. I'm genuinely excited for you and happy for you that you watched a movie and you enjoyed it. Anytime I watch a movie, I go in wanting to like it. I really wanted to like this movie, and I had pretty decent expectations that I would. And so, I mean no disrespect at all when I say this, but if you like this movie, you're just wrong. So Fear Street is based on a series of books by R.L. Stine, he of Goosebumps fame. Now, if Goosebumps is a book series made for elementary school students, Fear Street was its middle school counterpart. This film makes an interesting choice and tries to edge up the material a little bit. They add some blood and gore, they add a little bit of naughty language, and they add the mildest and tamest of teenage sex scenes that anyone could ever ask for. That's kind of how I feel like this movie is. It's children's book logic mixed with the tamest of R-rated thrills. It feels like it was designed to scandalize all of the middle school students who snuck onto their parents' Netflix accounts to watch this movie. So Fear Street takes place in a fictional town called Sunnyside, and they've been haunted by a witch since 1666. So all of the town has heard these stories, but none of them actually seems to believe it, despite literally hundreds of years of murder sprees that seem to be connected to witch possessions. So the film logic for the witch is that I guess every once in a while she gets bored and decides to possess someone and cause them to go on a murder spree. So she'll possess someone, they'll kill multiple people, and that's that, unless someone decides to accidentally disturb the witch's grave, and if that happens, she decides to send all of her previous possession victims to go hunt down this one person, and they will ignore anyone else on their path because they only want to kill the one person who disturbed the witch's grave. Unless they decide to not do that and then they actually do kill other people, but it's heady stuff. The logic of this movie, it all tracks. Now, the thing that really killed this movie for me is the lead character, Deena. Now, I don't want to be hyperbolic at all when I say this, but I think Deena is the most unlikable protagonist I've ever seen in a movie. Now, obviously that excludes characters that are meant to be unlikable, and obviously I'm exaggerating a little bit for effect for this video, but also I stand by what I said and I'm not exaggerating at all. Deena fucking sucks. Here's how the film presents Deena to us, its main protagonist. She's a high school student who's recently going through a breakup. We've all been there. She's mopey, she's depressed, and she really fears that in 10 years' time, she'll be old and alone. You know, 10 years in the future when she'll be 26. And then we meet Sam, Deena's ex-girlfriend, and we find out why Deena and Sam broke up. See, it turns out Deena broke up with Sam because Sam's parents got a divorce and Sam had to move 30 minutes away? I'm sorry, what? And to top all of that off, when Sam's new douchebag boyfriend starts chucking beer bottle at a bus that Deena is on, she decides to open the emergency exit of this moving vehicle and chuck a cooler full of Kool-Aid at Sam's douchebag boyfriend's car, causing them to run off the road and get into an absolutely horrific car accident. I'm talking Sam stumbles out of the car and has external and internal bleeding. And this is when she accidentally disturbs the very shallow grave of a 400-year-old witch that causes the events to unfold in this movie that lead to multiple deaths. Deena is a straight up monster. And then what happens after the horrific car accident? Oh, Everyone covers for Deena. Her friends cover for her to the police. The douchebag boyfriend of Sam decides to cover for the police. Sam, who was literally wheeled away into an ambulance with internal bleeding, decides to cover up for Deena to the police. And I guess we're meant to assume that every single other student on that bus and also the adult bus driver didn't notice Deena opening the emergency exit and doing this, despite the fact that a very loud alarm goes off when she does it? Okay, I guess. Oh, and to make matters worse, the movie has the audacity to take Deena's side in all of this. And in the emotional climax of the movie, they make Sam apologize to her. What? Like, she's genuinely just a terrible written protagonist. Sam is the person that this movie should be centered around. Sam is the person whose girlfriend broke up with them because their parents got a divorce. Sam is the person who accidentally disturbs the witch's grave and has a horde of zombie murderers after her. Sam is the sympathetic one. Deena is the shitty ex-girlfriend who plays victim and makes everything about her and just stands by and is kind of an active observer in watching Sam have her life ruined. And the worst abusers to Sam in this movie are not the witch or her zombie horde. It's Deena. But this movie's problems expand far past an unlikable protagonist. It also just does not have a solid grasp on its tone. This movie wants to be Scream so bad. When Scream came out in 1996, it was revelatory. But now, 25 years later, if you want to play in this genre and you want to be the new Scream, you gotta do a little bit more than pander to the Scream audience. And Fear Street does not reach that high mark. It doesn't even reach the very low bar that is generic 90s slasher movie. Is it self-aware? I mean, I guess, but it never really fully leans into that tone to be anything resembling fun. Is it scary? No, not really. I mean, compare the opening scene of this movie starring Hawke to the opening scene of Scream starring Drew Barrymore, and the difference is just night and day. The opening of Scream managed to be both tongue-in-cheek and scary. It actually pulls off the dual tone that this movie tries to do, whereas the opening with Hawke is just kind of lame and limp and been there, done that. But is this movie at least funny? No, this movie's got some of the lamest jokes I've seen in a horror movie in a very long time.
Sheriff Good? More like Sheriff motherfucking Evil.
Not a single line of dialogue or character beat in this movie feels authentic. There's literally a scene in this movie toward the end of the movie. We're closing in on the climax, and all of these horny teenagers have to say their final goodbyes because they might not survive the night. And what happens? They all start having sex. That's not a surprise. But the stoner character decides to take off all his clothes and jack off to himself in the mirror. I don't at all buy this. It's clearly the movie trying to be funny and trying to be over the top, and it just doesn't work. I mean, you do you, I guess, but like, I guess literally you do you, but. And I mean, yeah, this movie is trying to be Scream, but it's also trying to harken back to those other 90s slasher movies. We're talking I Know What You Did Last Summer or Urban Legends. But can we be honest about those movies for a second? Because they also weren't good. We like them now because of nostalgia. They were a piece of a specific era that we have moved past. This movie is not from that era, it is from today. And in trying to replicate something that was only good because of when it was released, but take away that aspect of it being released in the 90s, means that this movie is not good, it does not have the benefit of nostalgia, and it can't even compete with the lesser quality entries in this genre. So yeah, I did not like Fear Street Part 1, 1994. But you know what? I'll probably watch Part 2 next week because I'm a completionist and I hate myself. If you like this movie, like this video. If you like this video, like this video. And if you want to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and turn on those bell notifications so if I make a video on Part 2 or Part 3, you can come into the comments and tell me I'm wrong. See you in the next one. Bye.